Hey guys, so I'm in the gym again, and I thought, you know what? It's about time to do the second half of keto in different categories of types of people. You've got people who are vegan, vegetarian, you have men, women, athletes, you have people who are leaning towards the obese side, you have all different kinds of subcategories and a bazillion categories of people who don't eat pork or whatever, people who've got Hashimoto's or any type of ailment or sensitivity or allergy. And a lot of people ask, can you actually in fact do keto with some of these issues? Now, one of the biggest things clearly is hypoglycemia. That's the one I'm worried about the most for people who are already having a difficult time managing their blood glucose. So cutting your carbohydrates out might be a little problematic. But today, I think I want to talk about dudes. And I want to do a part 2 because dudes are much different than chicks. Yeah? Dudes got the business, and chicks have the business if you want. So here's the deal. Men who are not metabolically damaged tend to do better on keto than women who are metabolically damaged. And I started to realize with all of the Stephanie studies I'm doing, I know that sounds really whack, but that's all you can do when you're in the learning process. And I start to realize that women who are metabolically not deranged, who are metabolically strong, sound, healthy, also do well on keto if they are athletes, which means that they probably have somewhat of an insulin sensitivity already. They manage their glucose quite well. Their reproductive hormones are good to go, and bacterial infections aren't blocking their progress, physical progress and emotional or whatever kind of progress, because leaky gut, bacterial overgrowth can literally leach onto your brain cells and actually make you really whacked out. But here's the deal. So with guys, it's a little tricky. If you are metabolically sound, then you would cut your carbs down, and you may not even need to go down to the 15 grams, which I suggest to the newbies. Some guys who are metabolically sound can even manage up to 50 grams of carbohydrates. But I digress. I mean, you really don't need 50. That would be like 5 huge bowls of salad, and then you would put like onions in it and like raw carrots and things to kind of hit that 50 carbs. So you don't really need 50 carbs to have at least 8 cups of nice cruciferous veggies to your diet on keto. So what I want you guys to consider, the guys, because like last time I kind of spoke to women, and I realized there's a lot of things that I didn't really address with women, which was can you breastfeed, can you do keto and go through your whole pregnancy. So that's a whole, maybe another subcategory of women, or women who are getting older, let's say 60 and plus, but today it's the dudes. Yeah, it's the dudes today. So the problem that I notice, I am so twisted right now, that's because I've been working my ass up. The problems that I notice with guys is that their estradiol to testosterone levels are off. They're essentially aromatizing. So, basically things are all up here in the hypothalamus. And you've got luteinizing hormone, and you've got to be careful that your estrogen to testosterone is in balance. Because dudes make quite a lot of estrogen. The problem is that if you're a fat dude and if you got a belly, promise you are producing too much estrogen, because that softness on a dude is estrogen. It's kind of scary, because if your estrogen numbers get just a wee too high, you can, as we say, not hold a woody. So people start to talk about aromatase inhibitors to kind of block the production of estrogen. I'm like, no, please don't use pharmaceuticals to get that friggin' estrogen levels back down, because or maybe your DHT or your testosterone is too high, which is elevating your estrogen. But really, the reason why you're becoming estrogen dominant in the dudes, sort of, or your estrogen levels are too high, is because your belly fat is gone up. Your visceral fat has gone up. And that is a signal for estrogen to be produced even more. Here's the deal. Today's man also is getting their estrogens from phyto and xenoestrogens. So you got phytoestrogens in like soy, which is such garbage. Run for the hills. I know you've heard a little bit about the dangers of soy. It's not a joke. Get off that shit now and run the opposite direction with like garlic and a cross from the freaking soy. But with that said, the xenoestrogens, you got to worry about those too. And those come from plastic bottles. I've said this before in other videos. Plastic bottles and pesticides, because essentially trying to sterilize and feminize the male insects so they don't reproduce. Excuse me. And which that's not a good thing for dudes. Yeah. So the problem is that we got a lot of dudes balding and got bellies going on and man boobies, and it sucks because that is going to make guys depressed. If your estrogen is bumped up too high, you're going to go through andropause, which is the female version of menopause. And a lot of guys, younger and younger and younger, are going through this effect. You can even find guys in their 20s with a testosterone under 400. It gets quite low, and that's pretty scary. Now, can keto help fix this issue with testosterone low and estrogen high? Yeah. But of course, I'm always saying it's depending on how you do it and the state of your body prior to trying keto. So if you've got a big belly, guys, you're producing a lot of estrogen. And if your muscles are flat, that's a strong indication of estrogen and possibly too much DHT, which doesn't really, I mean, it's a powerful testosterone, but it doesn't really grow muscle. I mean, you can get a little baldage from that. So what, pray tell, can get your hormones back in balance where they should be? Well, keto is a great, and I mean, I'm using the reproductive system as the first like intro to talk about keto for dudes because so many dudes have too low T and too high estrogen. That's why I'm talking about it. But I mean, obviously there's other aspects that are great for dudes, like people who are athletes, who are marathon runners, people who are bodybuilders. Does keto work for those demographics, those types of people? Blah. Okay, here we go. So basically, if I go back to the reproductive system, we don't want, another thing that can be problematic with too high estrogen is a concept called pregnenolone steal, because your sex hormones are made out of cholesterol. So if somebody inboxed me today saying, oh, you're going to die from a heart attack. And I'm like, okay, keep believing that and doing low carb and doing high carb and doing low fat. And check me in 15 years and let's see how you're doing and let's see how I'm doing. I'm just saying. With that said, because of the whole low carb craziness, guys as well started to do too low carb. And I know this because I speak to guys who are afraid to add fat into their diet, especially cholesterol, butter, straight cholesterol like butter, and egg yolks. So I get a lot of guys who do whites, and I'm like, no, the beauty is in the yolk. So basically you have this mothership up in the air, and that is cholesterol. And cholesterol creates the building blocks to go all the way down to your reproductive hormones. So you've got pregnenolone, and then you have DHEA, and then it splits off and branches down to your testosterone, your progesterone, and your estrogen. And so when you're stressed out, that also creates this wickety-wackety wonkiness of your hormones. So stress does a thing called pregnenolone steal. And it, you've got cholesterol, then you've got pregnenolone that branches all the way down, and cortisol starts stealing from your pregnenolone. And so that's when you start to see of the hormones in dudes and andropause too young in males. So how does keto fix that? Well, clearly you eat a high-fat diet with a lot of cholesterol. So now your reproductive hormones can be built again because you'll have the tools to make them from the saturated fats. But with that whole xenoestrogen phyto thing going on, y'all need to get rid of that. You need to detox. So even with the guys, you got to think about your liver production. You want to unjunk the liver. It's not performing at its best. And you always have to realize that like estrogen and testosterone are fighting for the same receptor to dock on. So if you've got a lot of estrogen in there, they're going to dock on and you're going to be estrogen feminine. So another thing that creates this whole cascade is your liver not being highly functioning. It's junked up. So what you guys want to do is you want to do a little bit of plant pectins from citrus fruits, especially lemon, warm in the morning to pull those toxins out of the liver so it can function more highly. And you also might want to consider cruciferous vegetables that will help also unjunk that liver to get that excess estrogen out, so you don't have to use estrogen blockers, which can be dangerous for guys because you're supposed to have estrogen, and it is what it is. Okay, guys, so basically keto's going to do a couple things if you do it right? So you're no longer going to go through the blood sugar dysregulation, and when your body's like this and you also develop hypoglycemia, boom, estrogen shoots up and you become feminized. I'm just saying. And you have pregnenolone steal because of this cortisol stress effect from not managing your blood glucose. So that's another fantastic thing about being in ketosis is you no longer are dependent on glucose. So ketones are going to stabilize your body, stabilize your steroid hormones, stabilize all your hormones, your adrenal hormones, and how the hypothalamus is working, communicating with the rest of your body and your gonades, and how your pineal gland is helping with sleep and wake cycles. That's what you also want to consider when going on the ketogenic diet. It's not just about weight loss. It's about like fixing your hormones, fixing your glands, getting your enzymes working, because sometimes enzymatic production goes down when you're not using the machine. There's no need to spend excess energy making tools to fix the car if you're not driving the darn car with the right type of fuel. The body will just constantly conserve energy. And I'm explaining to people that sometimes constipation is a sign of thyroid, but it's also a sign of stress because your body's going to block up because peristalsis, the breakdown of food, is going to it's going to take a lot of energy to digest. So your body likes to slow other things down to then feed other parts of the body so you can survive. Well, this jacks you up, you guys. Okay, so I really want you to consider that getting your cortisol production down, getting your sleep in order, because you can't keto adapt and cross that bridge over to ketosis unless you can balance your body. Balance your glucose, get all the toxins out, unjunk your liver and kidneys, clean your colon out. I don't mean any juice crazy fast or anything like that, just by eating real food. Eating real protein, get rid of the protein shakes. People talk about the BCAAs, that's your prerogative. I'm saying do other things. Bone broth soup, for example, that's got a lot of magnesium, a lot of healing properties in it, a lot of minerals, and do cod liver oil for your vitamin D3. These are some of the things that you can consider high-quality multivitamin instead of always having to go towards the reparative amino acids and the BCAAs, because they could have an insulinergic effect, and that just kind of whacks up the whole cycle that we're trying to achieve by crossing that bridge over to ketosis land. That's what we want, because it stabilizes your mood, it gets serotonin production because your serotonin levels are down, and then you've got this big fat gut, and serotonin is eating the gut, and the immune system is the gut, and so serotonin production goes back up because you're not dependent on alcohol and stimulants and carbohydrates that create blood sugar dysregulation. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the end. Okay, I've got to say this real quick as well. It's also great to build muscle over time. Do you lose the pump? Yes, because for every bite of a carbohydrate that you eat, you're holding almost 3 bites of water, your cellular water that your body is holding onto in your kidneys. So if you want to learn more about that you can build muscle, how you become insulin sensitive, how it takes time, I gained 11 pounds in a year on keto. Hello, Z's. Go to stephanieperson.com, Stephanie the Business Person on my Facebook, or Stephanie Ketogenic to learn more. Okay, I got to do part 2 because I'm out. Peace out.